Hi class. So yesterday I handed out our 1920s magazine project that we'll be doing at the end of the unit. Now I know we haven't gotten started reading yet, but I wanted to hand it out to you guys so you could think about it as we're reading through this chapter on the 1920s. Now I know that the project may seem daunting, but it's going to be a lot of fun because you're going to get to write in a different way than you usually would. A lot of you have been used to writing our 5-paragraph essays and things of that nature, but now we're going to do something different. We're going to look at the 1920s in a different way through a magazine. And you're all going to be writing feature articles. What I decided to do was model how I went through the process for you guys so you can understand it a little bit better. Okay? Now I know most of the time the teacher just hands out an assignment and she doesn't really ever do it. You know, you guys think, oh, we have to do all the work, the teachers don't have to do anything. Well, this time I did the assignment too, so you guys would know what I expect of you. To start my assignment, I went through our textbook first. I took a look at the chapter on the Roaring Twenties, and I picked a topic that I thought I would like to learn more about and that I thought was really interesting. So I chose the dance, the Charleston, because I really like to dance. So I know that if I choose something that's more interesting to me, it'll go a lot more smoothly. After that, I went online and I started Googling the Charleston dance. I read about it. I finished reading about it in the book. I looked up signs on the internet, printed out some articles, and took notes so I could get some ideas. Once I had my notes from the internet, I started working on my rough draft. Now, we've gone through this in a couple other writing assignments we have, that the revision process in your writing is very important. So I created a rough draft first, read through it, made the changes I wanted to make, and then I gave it to a friend of mine to take a look at it to see if there were any changes that she thought I could make. Then I came back, made those changes, and worked on my final project. Okay? Now there will be some time for peer editing in class. If you notice that, that's on our assignment sheet. So we'll be able to peer edit in class and make changes. Now let me talk about some struggles you might have at the project. First of all, it is a very different format, okay? We're talking about magazine, 2 columns. We're not talking about a 5-paragraph essay. I know after I started researching, I immediately went into the Charleston was this kind of dance. It was made then. And it was very, almost like a research paper. That's not what we want, okay? Magazine stories are exciting, right? That's why people usually want to read a magazine as opposed to a book. So I started looking at telling the story about the Charleston. If I was a reporter back in the 1920s and the Charleston had just come on the scene and was sweeping the nation, what would I want to share with people? How would I want to tell that story? I actually created a fictional character. Her name is Anna Smith, and I pretended that I interviewed her, that she was a Broadway dancer and she'd done the Charleston before. Now, any information I have in my article has to be true, okay? We have to research it and it has to be true. But you can add some fictional parts to make it more interesting. So that was one way I overcame the obstacle of trying to write a magazine article, thinking about writing it as a story and creating some fictional parts to go along with the fact to make it more interesting. Finally, as I got close to finishing my article, I said, well, there's something missing. Usually when you read a newspaper story or magazine article, there's both sides presented, or both maybe opinions presented on something. So I talked about Anna Smith, who really loved the Charleston and thought it was great, and then I created another fictional character who didn't really like the Charleston. She thought it was the moral downbringing of society, which actually we read about in our book, so I addressed 2 different issues there. I think that really adds more to the story and makes it more real life and something you'd actually read in a magazine. Finally, last but not least, you do want to add some pictures. That will really add more to the story, make it real, and make it more interesting. So I found a picture on the internet of a girl doing the Charleston, and I made a little caption, and I pretended that that was Anna Smith, who I had interviewed, doing the Charleston. So those are some strategies and different things that you can use to overcome the challenge of writing a magazine article, since it is something new. Remember, to keep it interesting and fun. It's a magazine article, okay? It's not a research paper. It should be fun and interesting, and it should be told more as a story, not a research paper. Remember, everything that we focus on in class is history being a story. That's how we bring history to life. And these magazine articles are the perfect outlet for doing that. So enjoy the project. You guys are going to have a great time with it. It's a lot of fun. And of course, feel free to ask me any questions if you have them.